The Healy is a life-changing piece of equipment, but it lacks any meaningful instruction guide, leaving us to try to work it out for ourselves or to give up. Well, we'd like to start to change that. Rebecca Drew and Misty Cooper are the Frequency Fixx Grlzz with decades of experience using frequencies. They're going to be sharing with me some of their expertise in how to use the Healy most effectively.
You don't have to use the wristbands and you don't have to use the coil when you use the pink.
When you've run the frequencies enough, then it's like, oh, okay, now I can take more. Now instead of 2 hours, I'm going to do 4 hours. Now instead of 4 hours, I'm going to do 8 hours.
Okay, if I did 108 programs over and over and over in a 2-week period, is it going to make a difference? Absolutely not. Too many programs, too many things. But what we've found is when you're using a coil and another device that is more than or less than 5 feet away or 7 feet away, there is distortion.
And even just one program, Clean All, that detoxifies the liver, the lungs, the kidneys, the lymphatic system, the digestive tract, and the circulatory system. And that's just one program.
She puts the deep cycle on for 8 hours while she sleeps. And that actually has helped people that have sleeping problems sleep. Skinny people react to certain things differently because my fat, and there's morphine to love, my fat is a carrier for liquid.
We've had several people say, oh my gosh, what it is that you're running, because I feel in a state of bliss right now.
This is amazing.
This is going to be absolutely off the chart, blow your mind, fantastic.
Fun.
So Rebecca and Misty, thank you for joining me. We've got so much to cover. We want to really make the Healy simple and easy for people. So I want to get straight in and down and dirty with you, so to speak, in a moment. But first I want to find out about you and how you came to the Healy and what difference it's made to your lives.
Well, Misty and I, Misty and I have worked with frequency for decades. We work with photonic radionic frequency, which is intention-based frequency, which is what this device is really all about. We've worked with Tesla-type technology or Tesla technology for decades as well. The fact is we've been exposed to this for a long, long time. And when the Healy first came out, I researched it for 6 months because I wasn't quite sure about something that looked the way it did. You know, I don't like to judge a book by its cover, but the cover looked cheap. And so it made me really want to dive in and see what it does. And about 6 months in, a friend of ours called who has been a medical doctor and had to retire from her practice because she had MS and the medical community couldn't help her. And after, 3 days of using the device?
Yeah, it was, and let's preface too, she was bedridden for a very long time. And after about 3 weeks, she thought, well, this is it. I'm done. I'm leaving the planet. And somebody actually brought her a Healy over. And within 3 days, all of her symptoms of her MS were eradicated. And that's when we got the phone call saying,
girls, you've had enough time. Get on us.
Yeah. So that was actually how it all came about, where we really found out what the Healy could do.
I want to go back to basics a little now, and go back, and we'll work back up to what you do and how you can help people. But I want to go back to, to start off with when somebody gets their Healy for the first time. You've talked about how it's a powerhouse, how it can really transform people's lives, but it doesn't come with any sort of instruction book, and it doesn't come, or at least nothing that's very meaningful or helpful. And a lot of people actually give up using the Healy because there's just so many programs and they don't know how. So I want to ask you a series of questions that will, throw a bit of light on that and help guide people through how they can make use of their Healy. So let's start at day one. Somebody gets their Healy. They're sort of baffled by it. They just about work out how to set it up and get into their pink app. What should they do? Should they be running programs all day with the wristbands, or should they just choose one? How should they go about it on day one?
Okay, so first off, you don't have to use the wristbands and you don't have to use the coil when you use the pink. The pink is without anything. It is it is radionic frequency. It is intention based. The first thing before you do anything with the Healy is create an intention. It should be powerful and potent and detailed and clear. If you just say, well, what do I need today? Or what do I resonate with? Or, is my aura strong and stable? It's meaningless. It's not going to do anything for you. So that would be the first thing, is to think about why are you using this device? What do you want to accomplish in that moment with it? What's going on in your body or emotions? It's such a great device for emotions.
Yeah, and I just wanted to point out, Rebecca's making a good point, because when you look and you type in the Heal Advisor search for a specific issue, well, you will get a multitude of frequencies, right? So that's the reason why the intention needs to be very specific and incredibly powerful, because these frequencies are used for a multitude of different things.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, so on day one, what would you suggest that somebody does? So whatever they do, they need to bring their intention. But does that mean it doesn't matter which programs they choose?
If you go by the way of the company, they'll tell you to use the gold and stay in the gold for 2 weeks. Yeah. And they'll tell you to do 2-3 programs a day, and that's it.
And that's not how we started.
Hang on. You are your own laboratory. You have to experiment on yourself to see what works for you. And fear needs to be put aside. There's no place for fear when you're using this device. The frequencies are not here to hurt you. They're here to
assist.
Yes.
So when you say fear, you're talking, because some people think that there's a danger that they might get saturated with frequencies.
Oh, we hear this all the time. I'm afraid. I'm afraid to use. I don't know what it's going to happen if I use this frequency. It's, well, try it and see what effect it has. And if you don't use your intention, a lot of times people will say, well, it's not doing for me what it does for you, or when you work with me, it doesn't. What's your intention? Oh, I haven't been doing the intention. So I'm going to say that over and over and over. That is first and foremost, using, even in your daily life, no matter what you do in life, if you don't have an intention, whether, for some people it's prayer, affirmations, meditations, oh my God, when you say it over and over, what's that called?
Mantra.
Okay. Whatever it is, you have to have some form of intention every day in your life, or there's no direction. You have people that are constant victims, and they don't understand why their lives are the way they are, because you have no intention, you have no drive, you have no desire. And so
and in the beginning, I would start off slower. We went gung-ho.
Oh, wait a minute. You mean you wouldn't put the deep cycle on for 8 hours? So you wake up in the morning and I feel like I'm on a spaceship ready to puke my guts out. No, don't do that. Don't ever do that.
Not in the beginning. I can do it now.
Now, I will say that also. Skin, it also matters. Size does matter. What we found is that skinny people react to certain things differently, because my fat, and there's more for me to love, my fat is a carrier for liquid or for water. Misty can drink till she's blue in the face, and her body still will. There's no hydration going on in her body. So she's going to need more frequency than I do. And we find this with a lot of clients, that there are things that they can do I would never do. For instance, she puts the deep cycle on for 8 hours while she sleeps. And that actually has helped people that have sleeping problems sleep. And let me just say, wait a minute.
Gut issues.
Let me just say, it does double duty, because then they wake up in the morning and they go to the bathroom. No pun intended. Yeah. But to start with, what's going on in the life? Like, I don't think you have to start with the gold, or I didn't. If you have emotional problems, the mental balance is a delicious program to start with. If you have adrenal issues, the jaw program is a great program to stop. If you're around angry people, put on positive thoughts. But let me just say this. When you're using the pink and you're not using the wires, you do not have to deal with the intensity. I hear this over and over. Oh, but there's still something there. I put it at 200 and I can't do it past 40. If you plug a lamp in that has a dimmer and you turn on the dimmer, you have a positive and negative charge. There's a circuit there. It's going to make the light brighter and dimmer. If you plug the light, unplug the light, and you turn the dimmer up and down, there's no change in the light. There's no light at all. It's the same thing when you're using this device. If you plug the wires in because you want to put the bracelets or the electrodes or the other accessories that we happen to use, you do have to press it. You make it so it's white, and you turn it up until you feel it. And this is the thing about this device. You do not want to feel it. So once you feel it, turn it down at least 15%. It still should be white at that point, because what happens is as it goes about a third of the way in, it's gonna it's gonna get more intense. And when it gets more intense, you do not want to be feeling that. You just,
and everybody's body is different. I can put it up to 80%. Sometimes I'll even put it up to 100%, where there's some people who can't do more than 30.
I'm at 20 to
25.
30.
So you just really need to,
unless I put on fatty degeneration and she sees it and she goes, oh, you need this at 100.
I find that it's different for each program, actually. So even with the ear connectors, if I have so sometimes if I don't sleep well, I put the exhaustion acute on in the morning. I never feel that. That goes up to 100, I don't feel anything. I put the mental balance on at 40 and it's hurting my ears.
Yes, it's that way with when I use the digital nutrition with the wires. I do it through knee sleeves, and because my weak points in my body are my knees, so I wear knee sleeves and I do it that way. And yes, you can use accessories, but I find that when I'm using digital nutrition, I have to have it around 60 to 65%, whereas other things I have it at about 25%. Now, let's see, the intensity. What else? We don't really. For Misty, when we're using this, we don't really pay that much attention to the numbers. We see people writing the numbers down. You've got trillions of cells in your body. Just keep going and going and going, because you've got, if you're going to sit there or you leave it on, you have to leave it on because you want to see it pumping. Turn it off. If you have an iPhone, you have the new ones, you slide your finger up and then you quit it. And if you have an Android, you have the little button at the bottom with the 3 lines and it will quit it. And walk away. You can walk away and just go enjoy your day. And this is the thing about the pink. If you're not using the wires and you want to keep playing it over and over, once it's over, just push the button and it starts again. Yeah. And it will keep replaying over and over. If you want to put the wires on, you're going to have to go back to your phone or your tablet or your iPad, the controlling device, and reset the percentages.
So if you're using the coil or nothing at all, do we even need to worry about that? Because I've heard Marcus Schmeeker as well say he just clicks it on and just leaves it. He doesn't even look to see what the number is.
Right. We find no reason to be looking at the number. Now, let me just say this about the coil, because the coil is misrepresented. The coil is a type of Tesla technology. It is a Tesla-like technology. And it is Tesla-like technology, or Tesla technology, is never meant to just be hung on your body. It is meant to be placed at the issue. If you have a headache, you place it on your head. If you have a knee ache, you place it on your knee.
If you're working on your liver, you'll place it on your liver.
If you have gut issues, you place it on your gut. If it's emotional issues and you know where the emotions are stored, by all means, put it on that area. But do not just hang it on your body. That is not the purpose of the coil. And I'm going to say this as well. You can test it for your own benefit. But what we've found is when you're using a coil and another device that is more than or less than 5 feet away or 7 feet away, there is distortion. The coil will create distortion because?
Well, being a bifocal coil, what's happening is a frequency is coming this direction, you've got another frequency coming the opposite direction, and when they meet, they cancel each other out. So therefore, it's creating this energetic grid from the soul star down to the earth star, and it's actually just encompassing you within whatever frequency you're running. So nothing's going out and nothing's coming in on a frequency level. So if you have a lot of guides, whether they're angels, spirit guides, extraterrestrials, whoever is, working with you, it's going to block them out when you're using the coil. We've noticed that. We've felt it. We've heard it. It's like, oh, what are you doing? Especially Rebecca's guides. More so, they're much more vocal with her than my guides are with me. And so we never, ever use a coil in a remote. And it's basically just encompassing you in whatever frequency it is that you're running.
So is it better not to use the coil then in that case if it's blocking you off from guidance?
No, there's instance, look, we had somebody that was going to go in for $125,000 surgery. And we said, please just let us teach you our method and just as a gift, let's just teach you our method. And we sent her the knee sleeves thinking she was going to use the wires. Well, she ended up taking the coil and popping it in one of the knee sleeves. And in 2 days time, she was back up running around after being in a wheelchair and a walker for 8 months.
I want to come back on
the coil is remarkable.
I want to come back on a couple of things that you said. First, you said don't use it within, I guess, 5 feet, which I guess is about a couple of meters, of another Healy that's operating. How does that work practically? So, for example, if you're in a family and there's 3 members wearing a coil, and they're sitting at the dinner table together, they're all going to be overlapping each other's fields.
Take the coil out until you can be in your own room.
Really? Okay. It's that.
I mean, look. Let me say this.
No, let them try it though.
No, wait. I was just going to say this. If you find that it's not affecting you, and then it's a pleasant experience, and there's no distortion, like we said, when you're working with the quantum field, there are no boundaries. There's no rules. So if it's working for you, by all means, do it. Maybe you're doing programs that work together. But
I think they're very compatible frequencies that you're using.
Right.
It's just that we've noticed when we've worked, really on ourselves and other clients, that has been a real issue, is that it starts to distort some of the other frequencies.
Okay. Interesting. Very interesting. And another thing you said was that it needs to be placed on the place where the issue is. So if it's a liver, if you're running the liver program, you place it on the liver and so on. Now, practically, again, that's quite difficult, because if you're working on the eyes, for example, how do you get it over the eyes and still see where you're going?
Well, I mean, you could place it on your face. You could place it closer to the eyes as opposed to hanging it on your heart.
Yeah. So I suppose you could put it in a headband, couldn't you, and put it in between the eyes or something?
Yeah, or if you have a hat and you want to stick it in the hat.
Yeah.
But what we found is, and if you have an animal kit, there's a rubber band or the cat band that fit, or headband. You have a headband, you can put it around there. What we've found, oh my God, where was I going with this?
Yeah, like even in the winter, I went and got this.
Oh, yeah.
This is something that I would do in the winter if I don't have to worry about decalcifying my pineal gland because it's already done. But I would put on this hat, and if I wanted to work on anything with the pineal, I would just put it right here, and I would roll. So you could use anything to keep it in place.
Yeah.
Really. And any kind of a band.
Here's the other thing about working on your eyes. Now, when you get the device and it tells you to put the wristbands on or the electrodes on or the ear clips, if you get them or you want to buy them third party, reflexology and the energy points of the body are not my expertise, but I Googled everything because I was curious, why in this particular device are they only coming with these few accessories? Your ears are a map to the body. So when they tell you to clip it on the lobe, that goes to your eyes. Your brain is just below the cartilage, right? That first little bit of cartilage above the lobe. And so if you look at your ear as a map, you can actually clip it on different parts of your ear to be more effective in terms of where you're using it. Because oftentimes we'll hear people say they clip it on their ears and they see the vibration coming through their eyes. And so if you clip it on a different part of the ear, that stops.
So that's a good thing to do then, I guess, for the eyes program. Put it on the ears.
Mm-hmm. It's clear.
Yeah,
and if it's
right at the lobe.
And if it's an emotional issue where it doesn't necessarily have a point, it doesn't necessarily have a place in the body, or something about giving you more energy or something, what would you do that? Maybe put it near the heart or something?
I wouldn't use wires, and I wouldn't use the coil. I would just use your intention. It's marvelous for emotional issues with just intention. Look, we're doing remotes all the time. And we have people, we had one person where it goes all the way back into their emotional issues stemmed from being in the womb and things that were said in the womb. And so all we did was we have a picture of them in utero. We had a picture of their mother pregnant. We had a picture of them in their ultrasound picture. We set the intention about the emotional issues, and that's how it's fantastic.
And so actually, and then it doesn't matter where you have the Healy, because it hasn't got anything attached to it, so you could just put it anywhere in your pocket or anything.
That's right. You can set up your own remote for yourself and not even have to carry it.
I'll set up remotes for myself daily or for clients daily. I just will set up, whether it's creative homeopathy, whether it's the Australian bushflower, and I will run it for 8 hours.
And so what is the advantage of having the coil at all then, and the wristbands? Do we need them?
I think for certain things it helps.
I think it's great for pain, definitely. Right. And then and the wristbands, what we have found, are much more effective if you put them around the ankle. we discovered this while we were working with someone, and because what's happening is when you wrap that bracelet around the ankle and the snap goes just past the ankle bone on the outside, that indentation there, what's happening is now you've covered the bladder meridian and the kidney meridian. And so with that frequency going right there into those meridian points, the kidney meridian travels all the way up the legs, through the buttocks, the back. It comes up in through the neck, the skull, and it wraps around the eye. So now you're actually flooding your entire system with whatever frequency that you're running because of it touching the kidney meridian and the bladder meridian wrapped around. And sometimes people's ankle bone are a little large and you don't get the connection. So I just wet a piece of paper towel, put that against the skin, and then wrap the bracelet around the ankle. Okay. But the results have been phenomenal for people in pain by putting that bracelet around the ankle.
So electrodes are great for pain. Probably good to do one a day anyway for the microcurrent as well, would you say?
But I use the bioenergetic vitalisation, which is the activation of the dormant adult stem cells, regenerating. The youth is actually reverse aging, and it works. Women who have, well, men too, but if you have gray hair, which I don't yet, but we've seen women who have gray hair, all of a sudden their hair is changing back to the original color of when they were 7 years old. That's how wild that is. Regeneration 1, 2, and 3 can be, that's where we're talking about. You have to know what it's for. Regeneration 1, 2, and 3 actually can regenerate, but it also puts flora back in the system.
Right.
Well, that's one of the other things I was going to ask you about, because there's, well, let's come to the programs. There's so many programs, and the bioenergetic vitalisation is one set. It seems like a really powerful set of programs. There's no descriptions of any of them, so most people
they can't.
Okay.
No, they can't. They can't go out there and tell you that you're activating your dormant adult stem cells. That it's, they can't tell you those things.
Are you able to say what each of those programs means to you, or what each of those groups means to you?
I'm going to tell you how I use it.
Yeah.
Okay. I tore the meniscus in each knee 10 times. Last winter, I fell. As I was shoveling snow, I slipped on my knee. I thought, oh, please, not again. I had surgery once on my knee. I didn't want to have anything happen. So my knees were extremely sore for 2 days. It was hard to walk. And I put the knee sleeves on and I did 8 hours a day. I just had it running. I had their bioenergetic vitalisation going, and I did regeneration 1, 2, and 3. I did tissues. I did cell. I did the epigenetics. I did everything but the pineal, because I didn't need the pineal for my knees. And in 2 days' time, I was back up. And then I had to do flexibility and bioenergetic harmony 1. 2 days' time, back up, running around. My knees are fine. And
you did that just with no coil, no wristbands, just the Healy on the knee?
I did that. I did the knee sleeves. I use knee sleeves. Where do we? Oh, I have them right there.
Yeah, you've got them right there.
Yeah. This is what I use. These have a snap in them.
Mm-hmm.
You slide your leg, you put them up. They're silver woven. So instead of using 2 little electrodes on one knee, I get to put these on my knees.
So now you're getting both knees, and because it's silver woven, wraps around the whole knee, you're actually activating the portal that sits just behind the knee too. And so now you're even operating at a higher level with the frequencies. They're going deeper into the core of the cell. So these third-party accessories are really amazing.
Where do you get those from?
Go on to eBay or Amazon and just type in TENS unit accessories.
Okay.
And you'll see them. These are my elbow sleeves, but these are Misty's knee sleeves because these are my knee sleeves.
And how do you use them? You don't have to connect anything to them. You just put them on so that the Healy is in.
Oh yeah, with the wires.
Ah, okay. They connect. I see.
Yeah. See the little snap?
Yeah.
So the snap goes right there.
So instead of snapping the bracelets or the electrodes, you would snap these. Now, if somebody's working with horses, instead of putting electrodes on the horses, if they have hoof or leg issues, or they can put those on and slide them right up, and they work beautifully well.
And talking about how we utilize some of the other programs, if we're working with, we get hired a lot to work with horses and dogs and cats. And some of the programs that are really effective would be the bioenergetic defense.
No wires. No wires.
And we're doing all these remotely. And the reason why we love the bioenergetic defense is because there's a program in there called Subtle. And we have experienced it, and other people have experienced it as well. It actually removes negative entities off of the aura and the etheric body. And that's the one thing about animals, is they take on their owner's
stuff.
Yeah. Whether it's, an emotion or whether it's a disease, the dog or the horse is always taking it on. And so removing those negative entities is really important. It also, deals with the EMFs. So it helps to put up a fence to block out 5G cell phone towers. It also helps with radiation, because we've got radiation coming down not only from the sun, but satellites in the Earth's atmosphere. And so this has always been really great to run for animals, and for just, anybody's house as well, doing house clearings. The other thing, Deep Cycle, is one that we use all the time, because it's a detoxification of your major metabolic systems. And even just one program, Clean All, that detoxifies the liver, the lungs, the kidneys, the lymphatic system, the digestive tract, and the circulatory system. And that's just one program in Deep Cycle that does that type of detoxification. So
Breath of Life in Deep Cycle is a fantastic program for clearing out your lungs on a variety of levels.
It also works on the breast tissue as well. And then it operates on another level of Chinese medicine, because in Chinese medicine, our grief and our sadness is stored in the lungs. So it's actually helping to go in and find those cells where it's stored to bring it up and out of the body.
Yeah, that's all fascinating. And almost in a sense, what you're saying, it almost accentuates the need for some clarity for people in terms of what programs to choose, because there's so many programs, so many of them are so powerful. Now imagine somebody has an issue. They can either try and find a program themselves, but there's such a massive programs to choose from. And even look, there's 4 different circulation programs. There's lots of different programs with the same name in different areas. Right. Or they can use the search app, which will give them a list of about 30 programs, an enormous list to choose from. And they don't know which are most relevant to them or which to prioritize. Right. How can people navigate this minefield?
Right. Well, I want to just say this.
We have... Okay, you say what you're going to say. I'm going to wait.
I know. First, let me say, keep it simple. When we first started, somebody would say, well, what do I do for diabetes, or what do I do for thyroid? And I would look those up and I would try them. I don't have diabetes, but I would run through the programs and say, okay, if I did 108 programs over and over and over in a 2-week period, is it going to make a difference? Absolutely not. Too many programs, too many things. And also, why just do it in the pink where you can run it in the blue? So what we found is take 3 to 5 programs and either run the program over and over a couple of times before you go into the next one, or run them in succession and then keep running them in succession, but just do those 3 to 5 programs. Some people just do one program. We had somebody that was working on her sugar levels, and she just did the pancreas and spleen every day, all day long. And she went back to the doctor in 2 weeks' time, and her sugar levels were fine. So then she started working on the thyroid. Well, just doing the thyroid wasn't the same, because the thyroid is affected by so many things, and it's really about cleaning out. We have another guy that had heart issues. He was supposed to go in for open heart surgery. And we're not talking curing. We're not talking, everybody's different. It just depends what effect it has on your body. He did 12 hours a day with the wires, and he did all the circulation programs. He did the heart program. I think he did the lymph program. He did a couple of mental balance programs, and he did that every single day. And in 2 months' time, he happened to be walking in Central Park, and that his heart doctor, his cardiologist saw him. He said, why didn't you come in for your surgery? He said, I don't need you. And so the doctor had him come in, and sure enough, his heart was fine. His circulation was fine. His blood pressure and his cholesterol, everything was fine. So,
and in your answering the question about some of the circulation programs, what we do know, we have a pretty detailed list of each of these 2. Yeah. And so when you're talking about free flow, which is in Deep Cycle, that's searching out blockages in the circulatory system. In Meridians 2, that plays a role in blood pressure. So now you can see how now we're differentiating what we'll utilize in the circulation programs. In Bioenergetic Harmony 1, that circulatory system is a role for blood pressure. And in fitness, it aids in metabolic supply. So those are going to be the 4 components that are different. So now you know the difference in the circulation.
Where can we get this list, Misty?
Well, we look at this is
Where
from
can we get this
is from our research. This is from our research and the things we spent 6 months before we even started doing this, trying to find it for ourselves.
We found a lot actually of information in German, and we had to take it and we had to translate it into English.
And then the other thing is
that's how we've come up with a lot of these, is because we were able to connect with some people in Germany, and then we were given.
But the other thing is, through research that we've done, when we do programs, how does it affect the body? We would ask people, how does it affect your body? And because it's going to affect everybody differently. And that's how we started to. And then here's the other thing. When Misty gets her information versus the way I get my information, hers comes from the information field through her crown and out of her mouth. If I don't record what she says, she doesn't remember it. She cannot repeat it. So what I've done is I've recorded hours and hours and hours of things that are coming through Misty, and then I transcribe it. And as I transcribe it, the list changes. The full description list that we have will change over time. That's not coming from the company. That's coming from us and our research.
Yeah, no, it's great research. But in terms of choosing programs, I'm hearing the messages: keep it simple, as in choose a small number of programs, and be persistent. Keep going until there's some change using those programs.
That's correct.
What guidance would you give to people in terms, you clearly are very tuned in to what programs to choose, and how, if somebody's new to this, what would you say to them in terms of, they get 20 programs come up on the search app for an issue? How would they choose which ones to take?
Okay, I just, let me say something before you do.
You go ahead.
The first thing that people are overlooking is the blue. Go into the blue and do an all program. Now, the all program is not going to deal with emotional. Do an all program. And I hear people, all Healy. And I hear people say, oh, well, you can't run that one. It's just to look at. That's baloney. We put that on, and we'll put it on for 26 to 52 minutes, just to start with. And then we go through that list and see, okay, what 5 of them came up? What resonates with us as far as what do we want? And we'll run it for 2 hours. Each program will run for at least 2 hours. We'll do things for 4, 8, 12 hours because that's what we do. I wouldn't do that in the beginning. I would start at an hour to 56 minutes to 2 hours. The 2 hours, I think, is almost 3 hours.
You want to get your body used to the frequency, right? Because then once you start running some of these frequencies, what I found really fascinating is that when my body starts to really register the frequency, I can actually call it in without having to run the Healy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's something to it. When you've run the frequencies enough, then it's like, oh, okay, now I can take more. Now, instead of 2 hours, I'm going to do 4 hours. Now, instead of 4 hours, I'm going to do 8 hours. So it's a gradual, it's almost like a learning curve for your own energetic grid from your own frequency. And then it registers in there. So you know it. And if, that is when then I think would be the best to start running 8 hours. But I wouldn't start running the 8 hours right off the top. Not like we did. I mean, we did right from the beginning.
But you've done frequencies for years anyway, haven't you?
And what was that?
But you've been doing frequencies for years anyway. Right. You were already habituated to.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Look, we've had people that
for over 25, 30 years.
We've had people where we've done one session and they're so tapped in just period that all of a sudden what it did is it activated the information field for them, so they literally could see what they needed, and they didn't have to have the device to do that. And that's what we're saying there.
And anybody who is a facilitator of frequency and working with people, you can go ahead and utilize still your symbols, whether it's Reiki symbols, whether you're utilizing Qigong,
Shambhala, fire codes,
the Maha Karuna, 72 fire codes of creation. You can utilize all of those with the Healy, and it just ramps it up. It just creates an even stronger, more potent frequency for you to be able to work with yourself or your clients.
So with the Blue app then, how do we, so we've been talking up to now about the Pink app, and Rebecca, you've mentioned bringing in the Blue app. How would you use them together? We've been talking about how to choose programs for the Pink app, and then we're bringing in the Blue app. Would you do both at the same time? Would you use the Blue app to choose a program to run on the Pink app, or would you use the results only on the Blue app? How would you use them together?
I would do both. I would start with the Blue if you're not used to using the Blue app, I would do an all program and see what comes up. And we run that one. No matter what anybody says, we run it. You're getting frequencies from that.
But if you're wanting to work on an emotional issue, then you're going to have to choose.
Wait, let's stick to the physical. I know, but let's do the physical first, and then we'll get to. I was going to do that and then go, because we could just go all over. So for the physical, what's going on with the body? And you're going to think something's going on. The Healy. That's the thing about this device and the quantum sensor. It is. No matter how intuitive you are, it's more intuitive than you are. So it's going to find things that you don't realize or need work or adjusting. And so we run them. We just trust it and we run it. If it says that I need the meridians 1 and 2, then I'm going to run the meridians 1 and 2. And then after I do that, I may decide, well, you know what? I want to pick something. I want to look through it and I want to pick something. Most of the time we like to go through the creative homeopathy. Don't overlook the aura. The aura is not just about doing an aura reading. The aura is about parental, ancestral, authoritative, and karmic issues. It goes all the way back into the womb. It can go into past lives and clear past lives. If you believe in astral travel and other dimensions, it can clear that out as well. So it's a phenomenal program. It also allows you to program. It allows you to put additional photos in it.
And then that's where the intention becomes really vital, because in the aura, it says my aura is strong and stable. It's really important to go in there and change it and create what it is that you want the frequencies to be sent to you. And so, and you will see the results when you actually change that from my aura is strong and stable.
And you can type that one in. You can't do it in the resonance, but you can type it in the aura.
So is there a type of issue, when we've talked about physical and emotional, is there a type of issue that you would gravitate to the resonance and another that you would generally do the aura on? Is that the physical emotional split?
Okay. How many people have parental issues? Let's face it, any issue in the body is emotional.
And let's talk about the ancestral lineage.
Right.
It's like when you think about your ancestors, we're all carrying our ancestors inside of us. And where do we carry it? It's in our gut microbiome. So every time there is an incarnation, then we are carrying over a piece of our ancestral lineage that actually lives within our gut, because our gut our gut microbiome carries all of our good bacteria and all of our bad bacteria. But that's also where we have carried over the ancestral lineage. So it's really important to understand that fact, because it's just energy, and energy never dies. It just changes form. So that's how it just keeps changing. So it's going from generation to generation. So each piece of that ancestral lineage then just gets passed on from generation to generation. So each one carries it with them until they can actually eradicate whatever that frequency is. Whatever the frequency is that's causing the disease or the emotion, whatever is happening in the body at that time. And so that's what the aura is really great for. And that's how we utilize it. It's much more than just an aura reading.
So to summarize, it's as simple as this. I think I'm understanding you right. The resonance, you would use it for any physical issues, any tangible material issues. The aura for anything emotional or blockages in direct. No, okay.
Because you have all those emotional issues that you can deal with in the resonance. You have creative homeopathy, which is fantastic because I don't know why. I cannot. I know how to use it. I can tell you what to do with it. I just cannot. Go ahead, say it.
Okay. It identifies stress patterns that are trapped in the subconscious. So for instance, if you're in the womb, you're in your embryonic state, and say your mother and father are fighting, it's like that frequency is actually going into the cell as it is in its growth stage. So it's getting trapped in there already. So now you're going to have a lot of ideas and emotions that are trapped in these dark corners of the mind that you don't even know are there because you're not even out of the womb yet. And so the fascinating thing about the Healy is that it can actually find those places, and it can start to reprogram those emotions, bring them up and out, so then you can actually live your potential. And so beyond the creative homeopathy, the other emotional programs that we love to run is the Australian bush flowers. That is really strong. And so we never ever in the beginning recommend longer than 56 minutes.
Because it can become counterproductive.
Yeah, some people will become very agitated with those frequencies because they are so strong. But also when you think about what the frequency is doing as it's bumping up against that trauma, right? It's trying to break through it. So that is what then creates the agitation.
Are you are you talking here specifically about the Australian bush, or about all of the, not the creative?
Australian bush.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
Australian bush and Bach.
Those are the two that are so incredibly strong that we find it's counterproductive when we run it longer than 56 minutes.
Now, let me just say this. If you're working on it by yourself and you're willing to push past that, what it will do is because you don't, people don't like when they have that agitative feeling inside.
Yeah, people don't want to go into a healing crisis.
Here's an example. Missy put on the Australian bush flowers for 6 hours last week. And I didn't know she had done that. And I don't like using that for more than 56 minutes because it does start making you feel this agitation. And what it did is it pushed me into something that I went through as a child that I didn't even know it was there. And I found myself being in a fetal position and crying and feeling these emotions that came up that I had to stuff down. I mean, I remember them all. And it wasn't bad to have to go through that. It's just that within 24 hours it had just gone, poof, gone. So if you're willing to push past that and you want to get through it faster, then by all means, try it, experiment with yourself, but do not do that to another person. No, that's got to be something that they agree to.
So, and what about things like the I Ching? I've heard that's to do with bringing in money and wealth.
If it works for you, everybody's different with that. And if it works for you, then go for it. That's kind of like having tarot cards. The Alaskan gem elixirs are they're delicious. They're like bathing in liquid crystals. And those we do for longer periods of time. You can do those for 4 to 8 hours.
Yeah, that has a lot to do with, an inner stillness, working with forgiveness of the heart. And so they're really these nice, mellow, very gentle and tender frequencies that people love the feeling of. And believe it or not, even the creative homeopathy with what it does is reaching deep into the dark recesses of the mind. They are also very gentle and very loving frequencies. We've had several people say, oh my gosh, what it is that you're running, because I feel in a state of bliss right now. And I think that a part of it was just finally getting to these emotions and helping these thoughts and emotions uncover whatever is holding them back from their own joy, holding them back from that bliss. And so we have found that to be really effective. We will always use creative homeopathy with the client.
And then you have digital nutrition. Well, if you use digital nutrition without the wires in the blue, what it's going to do is enhance any kind of nutrients that you're putting in your body. It's not going to replace them. The bioenergetic vitalisation, it's going to enhance. It's not necessarily, though I will say we had a woman come to us that she had been using the Healy Holistic, and she didn't have a lot of money, and she got the subscription for the bioenergetic vitalisation. Didn't tell us she didn't have the wires because she didn't have money to replace them. And she did it all with intention, broke her arm from the wrist to the shoulder, both arms, was supposed to go in 3 weeks to have surgery. And I said, well, what's your intention? She said, I want the bones to fuse back together and I don't want to go in for any surgery. And I said, well, make it a little more detailed than that and really, say it at least once a day. Well, she said it all day long. In 3 weeks' time, when she went back to the doctor, there was no sign of breakage.
Wow.
So, everybody's different. And to say that you can do anything in any program. The watch programs, people say, well, I don't have a watch. What do I need to watch programs? Well, they're giving you more frequencies. That's all it is. So when it first came out, it was like, okay, they changed the logarithms and we're getting all the watch programs. Well, then we changed our perspective and said, okay, we're just getting more frequencies. Let's run them. You could run them in the blue. Why not?
Yeah, we're not really watch people. So, we have a watch, but we don't wear it. But there's a couple other, they've added in some more meridian frequencies in there, like the pericardium, the triple burner that you don't get in some of the other programs.
And they've put in some other digital nutrition that you don't get in the main program. Right. Animal frequencies. Okay. You don't have to put, in fact, I got the animal frequency kit to try on Misty because she would always be wetting the paper towel. And I thought, okay, well, it has a sponge that you squeeze and you put the electrode in the sponge and then you place it on the body. So she's a bigger is better person. They were too small for her. She said if they'd been bigger, she'd use them. But, and it also has a great connection cable that you can use, so you can use other accessories with it. But you can use the animal frequencies on humans. You can use the human frequencies on animals. There's no set rule as to what you can use
because they're just frequencies, as we keep saying.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. And that's what we're all made of, is frequency. We're all made of sound. That's, you know, the bottom line is we're all made of sound. So.
And the programs, I guess, are just collections of frequencies which are traditionally used together for something, but could, of course, be used for almost anything else. Do you think is it ever a good idea? You know, we talked about choosing a small number of programs and just doing them in rotation until there's a difference. Is it a good idea ever to sort of take a program group and go through it, like the deep cycle, or like, you know, mental balance, or if you want to feel better, or like the vitalization?
I did the deep cycle the way John Polzinski said to do it, and I didn't notice anything. When we focused on certain aspects of it, then I started. But again, that was what worked for me. Yeah. What I suggest is, and this is what I'll do every time, is I will do it the way the person that created it said to do it. It's the way Nuno Nino, when he says to do the gold. I don't agree with him when he says how to do a gold. I don't like the fact that he tells people that energy is not for energy. When if you use the energy and it works for you and it gives you more energy, then why isn't it? Why isn't it embraced? You know? So I will do it the way the person that created it said to do it, and then I'll do it the way that I deem for me, and will suggest to other people, see what works for you. It's the same thing. Do I use it with the coil, with the wires, or without? Well, try it every single way. Do one day without, one day with the wires, one day with just the coil, and take notes to see how do you feel affected by it.
It's interesting, isn't it, Rebecca? Because it's like, it's a different way of thinking about it. A lot of people get the Healy and they're looking to be told what the correct way to use it is, and to get advice and to look in all these places for, you know, this is how you should use this program and this is how you should use another. Whereas actually you're saying, no, the Healy is a tool for you. And you can try all of those ways. You can get inspiration from other people's ideas, but ultimately it's how it works for you. And why wouldn't you use it like that?
That's exactly what it is. It's a tool. We call it a tool of higher consciousness. And what people don't realize is, and we hear this all the time, you have unlimited possibilities and unlimited potential. And so if you look at yourself that way, then don't limit yourself with anything you do. Even with this device, no matter what you're doing, that's what we teach. We teach that you open your life up to everything and anything. And you decide what it is. You don't, it's not what somebody else tells you to do. You decide, investigate.
Yeah, because the thing is just like our DNA is completely different than anybody else's DNA, so is our energetic signature. And so that is where then people need to recognize that they really have to be their own laboratory. They have to use their own body as the experimentation and what's right for them, because what's right for them is not going to be right for somebody else.
Yeah.
And you hear us say that over and over and over.
Yeah. Yeah. But to return to your, to learning from your inspiration, we've been talking about the difference between the resonance, so using the all programs for the physical stuff, the non-Healy programs on the resonance. You make them all sound really attractive and compelling. I just want to go and run them all now after listening to you talking. And then the aura for more emotional things and for breaking deeper patterns and things like this.
Right.
What about the coach?
And then you have the coaching.
Say it again, sorry?
The coaching. When we first got the coaching, we were a little iffy because we thought, you know, we can do a lot of this programming in the aura, but it's a very powerful program.
Well, yeah, because you're accessing different frequencies than what is actually in the Healy. And what I thought, and what I found to be really fascinating is there is an actual program under family relationships called ancestral claims. And this is where you can actually dissolve curses, your ancestral suffering, grief, despair. It goes on, any kind of blockages that are going on in the body. And so this is the one area that we've really been doing a lot of work in. And we are finding these old photographs as like great-great-grandfather photographs.
Yeah, go on Ancestry and pull off some photographs of your family.
Yeah, and actually putting those into the Healy to then start to make an even quicker, more effective shift when you're actually putting the photographs in of your family into the coaching module. So that's one thing. And the other thing is that we don't use it the way, obviously it's been taught to be used. And I like to incorporate a multitude of frequencies. And one thing, just for people to recognize too, that the coaching module is so strong because you can apply up to 100 frequencies at one time if you wanted to. I've done that before, and some people say, oh, it dilutes it, so you really shouldn't be doing that many frequencies. I don't find that it dilutes it at all. I'm finding that it actually is more effective and it is quicker at working. And we've even had clients when we've been working with them and we've got, you know, the 4 Healy going, and then we actually take one of them and put them on the coaching. All of a sudden it's like, whoa, I can really feel it, what's happening. I'm like, okay, that's the coaching module. And so then we'll pull back the other 3 Healys that we're using, and then we will just focus on the coaching. And so just be aware that then it becomes incredibly strong, because when I'm looking at ancestral lineage and we'll look in the family relationships, well, what else goes into that? Emotional balance, self-worth, social relationships, and spirituality. And so I will hit on all of those programs, and then it gives you sub-programs after you go into those categories. Then it gives you subcategories, and then you can choose from those subcategories, or you'll see what resonates. You can't choose, but you can choose the number of frequencies that you want from those categories. Say there's self-acceptance in self-worth. That has 119 frequencies in there. So I look at those 119, I see what resonates and go, oh, I think I need 9. And now, unfortunately, we can't choose those frequencies. Those are chosen for us. But we can see what resonates, and you can put up to 20. It doesn't allow you more than 20 frequencies per subcategory. So we have found the coaching module to be a really important component to what's going on with this device, especially when you're wanting to clear the ancestral lineage. And if you feel like you've been cursed or hexed, and let's face it, you know, going back into the 8th century, the 7th century, it's like that was a really time when this was, you know, I don't want to, I guess I can say witchcraft, but it was the days of witchcraft, right? So those elements are within all of us, and we need to be able to eradicate those frequencies.
Do we need to know what it is? Do we need to know that we've been cursed, or can we just think, well, maybe I have been, I just want to clear myself out just in case? And if so, how would we use the module in that case?
Just the same way I explained it. And then you would set the focus, because that's the one thing in the coaching too, it has the focus and it's blend, which is really great, because then you can set your focus, right? You'll say, I release and I dissolve all ancestral curses, hexes, spells, and bewitchment, as well as contracts, known or unknown, are now completely nullified. Now that is a focus specifically to the ancestral lineage, right? And so I get very specific, I get extremely focused, and then that's whatever it is that I'm working on. Now, if it was childhood trauma, it would be a totally different one, right? This is I release and I dissolve all childhood trauma, that, and then you would put, right?
She goes all the way back to William the Conqueror. So she's got a lot to clear out.
Which side were you on?
It's a good question.
I found a book that goes, when I was doing her ancestral lineage, I found a book that was written about, so you'll have to go read your book. I know, just,
okay.
And the other thing is we get into the photographs again. If you put photographs in, there is an effect of those photographs. We've had families put in pictures of all of them together, and it's actually brought the family back together. It's cleared out all the angst in the family. Current day. So families are very important. I mean, photographs are very important.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So when we run a scan on the Blue app, it might be a resonance, might be an aura, might be a coach, we can rerun the we can send the frequencies to ourselves once, and then we can send them to ourselves again, the same frequencies again another time. What would you say is the right balance between, and why, between repeating the same frequencies and updating? Because there's always there's a way of thinking which is, well, if I want to know what's up to date for me, I want to run a new scan every time. Or on the other hand, you could think, well, if I've got these results, I want to keep doing them until they've had an effect. What's the right balance?
You can do both ways of thinking. When we first got it, I changed it every time I got it. Missy would keep some of hers. Like, for instance, ladies, if I may be a little vain, if you take the beauty program and you ask the universe and the quantum sensor to give you aging and skin elasticity, and you rename it as body lift or facelift, if you run that for 8 to 12 hours while you're sleeping, you wake up in the morning. I mean, I had to do a double take because Misty did that one night and I didn't know it. And when I looked in the mirror, it's like, whoa, all of this was gone. Everything was pulled back. All the skin on my arms was tight. And I was like, oh, I like this. So we'll keep that as our body lift and we'll use that at night. And if you do that 2 to 3 times a week, it will keep your skin taut.
And that's using the resonance, the beauty program.
That's using the resonance in the beauty program. Yeah, so that kind of thing. If we create our own program and we write in the desired state and the desired state description.
Yeah, just on the in running the beauty program and running it at night for 8 hours, you want to make sure that you get the aging and the skin elasticity. And the reason why is the frequency coming in from skin elasticity is actually the frequency of collagen, and it is penetrating underneath the skin tissue, going into the lymphatics. And so it's now plumping up your collagen. And you look at the aging frequency, and that is actually activating the tiny organelles of the skin, and so that's doing the tightening. So you're plumping and you're tightening, and it's like, and you actually will notice a difference if you run it 8 hours at night. So yeah, but cool. those are the two in the scan that you really want to come up, because that's what's really doing most of the work.
There's a video that you have created which I loved actually, and I did it myself, and I'll put a link, or I'll put it on the screen, about how to create a vision board. So I created my vision board for 2022, and I run it for 9 hours every night now. Would you suggest that I run that for the whole year? Or would you suggest that I update it and do a new one? Or would you suggest I occasionally go into some of the things that I put into it and change them when I get a new idea? How do you think that would work?
Okay, if you've accomplished something in the vision board, then it doesn't need to be there anymore unless you want it there, or you might want to tweak it and add something to it. But I would go in there once a month and tweak it. I'd add new photographs, I'd add images or words or symbols, or just to keep it growing and keep it changing. If something isn't working for you, okay, here's an example. You have to be careful what you say in a vision board. One thing we said is, we want to open up multiple avenues or multiple streams of money, or multiple streams. Okay. So all of a sudden I'm getting people asking me to do their websites, because I used to do website years ago. I don't want that to be one of my avenue streams. So I have to be very specific. And so that's the thing. Or if you want X amount of dollars a day, and you have to be very specific of what you want that for, because you might be getting extra things that you would think would be extra amounts of money coming in, and all of a sudden they're feeding that total amount of money that you want a day, instead of, you want your money from teaching, and I want extras from, maybe I've sold everything in my home because I'm selling my home. Well, no, all of a sudden those things I've sold in my home, the teaching doesn't come in, and the things in my home have made up what I need for the week. And it's always that exact amount. So you might want to change the amount that you're getting. You have to specify. We've also had people that have done vision boards, and all of a sudden they, one woman decided to measure herself. She said, I never use a watch and I never measure, but her heartbeat went up to 200 beats a minute while she was sleeping. And she said, oh, I can't do this. What we had to do is create a self-love board with her that she runs while she's sleeping, because when somebody runs a vision board, if they don't love themselves, they're not going to receive. You have got to love yourself. And that is the ultimate pandemic in this world, is that people don't love themselves. And by that, I don't mean egoically. I mean that there's no judgment to yourself. It's not that you can't, improve on things that you do. It's that you just love everything about yourself, and you're compassionate and kind towards yourself. So that's what I would suggest, is that you just tweak it every once in a while, because it needs it. It's like anything. If you leave it the same, there's just all stagnant energy, and there's always going to be something you can tweak and fine tune until you get it exactly as you want it to be. And even then, change happens every moment of every day.
Yeah, so it's about keeping it dynamic and keeping it living so that it doesn't become stagnant and just become ritualistic.
Right. And you never want to be complacent about things. It's just, that's not living.
Yeah, yeah, good. Now, when we can use the Blue app also to work on a group or a vehicle or an organization. What's different about that? How do we do that?
Well, first of all, how you enter it as a client is different.
Yeah.
We fixed the transmission of our car. We would put in our car as a client, and what came up was we did an all program. We ran that for 4 hours while we drove.
Yeah, we took a road trip, and it made sense too, because meridians too came up, which is all of the, which would remind me, since it's meridians, it's like nerve channels, right? And columns. And so that would remind me of our hoses, the electrical system, and then bioenergetic harmony too came up. And that's all major organs. That would be the engine, the radiator, so on and so forth. And so we ran that for 4 hours. We've not had any trouble with our transmission since. It's been 1.5 years. Because we had just had it replaced, and it was like, oh, why is it slipping? We just spent $4,000. I'm not going to spend another $4,000 to get it replaced again. So that's why we decided to run the Healy.
And then we fixed the CarPlay with it. The CarPlay wasn't connecting to the phone. So we ran the CarPlay, and then it's been fine ever since. I was transferring old video to analog video to digital, and it was all staticky. Well, it took all the static away. I ran it for 2 hours, and I entered the recording device as the client, and then I ran it on that for 2 hours, and all my tapes are fine.
And we were working with a client yesterday who has green moss on her home and wants to remove it. So I was like, okay, take a photograph of the home, put it in, but just take a photo of the moss that is on the house. Then you'll enter it as a plant, and then you'll remove the moss by doing it that way. So this was just yesterday. So we're going to see if that works.
Or
it'll be interesting to see if
so. This is another example of learning, experimenting and
right.
Understanding how the Healy works by your own experimentation.
Yeah,
we have somebody that puts all her plants in, and she also actually has clients bringing her their half dead plants, and she will put the plants in as a client, and it's brought the chlorophyll back into the plants, and the plants are all healthy. So that groups, we have teachers that use it in their classroom. They do not get the permission of the parents because they're actually running it for themselves in the class. They'll go in, they'll clear out the building. They'll put on the bioenergetic boost to clear it out of viruses. Then they'll put on the bioenergetic defense in the blue and clear the building out of EMFs and subtle energies and so on and so forth. And then they'll put on the learning program because it gets the kids to focus. But they'll put it on for themselves so that the frequencies, people say, oh, well, it only goes to the person it's there for. No, if you're in a room, everybody's getting that frequency.
Yeah.
If you're in an office building and the people that you're working with are miserable, put on positive thoughts. It's fantastic for changing the energy in a room.
I did a scan on I can't remember whether it was an aura or a coach scan on my business, and everything that came up, all of the results, I thought, that's not the business, that's me it's talking about. More than if I run a scan on myself, that's me. And I did one on me and my wife as a group. And again, some of them were like, that's me, and some of them were, that's her. Is that how it works sometimes? The results are not necessarily for everybody in the group, but they're for whoever needs it to move the energy forward.
That's what we have found to be the case.
Okay.
Definitely. Yeah. And another way in which we've used this, we were in Mount Shasta, and we were staying at this bed and breakfast, and they just, it's lovely, it's beautiful. And they just weren't getting the clients to stay. They just weren't getting enough patronage. And so we did a scan in the creative homeopathy. And the thing that came up, the first thing in the scan was that the house was distressed because of its new location. And we were like, well, what does that mean? And the owner, his jaw just dropped to the floor, and he was all like, this house was built in 1940, about 20 blocks from here. Right. And it was moved to this location in the 60s, and it's still upset that it's not on its original foundation. And so we actually ran that scan for 8 hours for the house. And do you know, they've been booked up ever since.
Really?
Yeah, we have a hard time getting in now.
Yeah.
And all the spirits are gone. We used to see them walk back and forth in the hallway, and they're all gone now. So it's a happy house.
Well, Rebecca and Misty, this has been absolutely fascinating. I think people have seen how much understanding and expertise you have about the Healy. What can people expect if they want to come and work with you? What sort of thing will they be getting?
Oh, life-changing. No, I mean, seriously, because it's not about the device. The device is a tool. When people come to us, it's really about them. It's about changing their lives. And this is simply a tool. That's what we teach. We teach you to change your life. We teach you to love yourself. We teach you to open up yourself to possibilities, unlimited possibilities. You open yourself up to your unlimited potential. That's really what we're about. And whether we have a tool or we don't have a tool, that's what we've always taught. You can reach us at frequencyfixx.com with 2 X's.
And we want to thank you, Guy, for such a great interview. We've loved every minute of it. Much love to everybody.
I had a very severe back pain 3 months ago, and I was bedridden for quite a very long time. I used to scream, cry out of pain. With the second session, it was completely gone. Even with a painkiller, I didn't have such relief, you know.
I had lots of amazing results. When I had sleep issues after the session, I could sleep normally, so I didn't wake up throughout the night. And it was really, really calm and soothing.
So as a healer myself, I can see his skill and his natural talent and ability with it. So yeah.
I went to bed that night still in pain. When I woke up the next morning, it had gone and it hasn't come back since.
And I can feel things are shifting and changing. This feels like we're getting at something that I wouldn't even know how to put words to. I just feel the power of working that way.